YouTube. Content. Oh dear, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry about the haze. I'll come to that. It's vape. Those of you that follow my TikTok and saw a beer review that I did yesterday will know that on starting some projects that I was filming for content for this video yesterday, my lathe told me in no uncertain terms to do some very unmentionable things to my own Botbot, and it's not dead. It's completely repairable. It's completely serviceable. I'm going to sell it as such on that basis, and I know what's wrong with it. However, with day jobs and real life and everything else, and an urge to upgrade anyway, I'm just not going to commit the time to it, and it's going to get replaced. Something I'm left with no content for this week, so I've decided I'm going to make the video that nobody's asked for and nobody wants. But you know what? Sod it, you're getting anyway. You're getting a shop tour, the smallest shop in the world. Nice. I'm starting that corner over there, and I'm going to move you around. And it's not the tidiest shop in the world, and I'll explain as I go. It's better than it was 2 hours ago, that's all I'm going to tell you. So let's crack on and see what. Right, so first things, boo! Well, this corner, we've got my sash clamps. We've got my little shovel-y snow shovel, which is actually a sawdust and shaving shovel. There's a naff saw there. There's a crowbar there. There's another naff saw. There's my 3 pull saws, 2 of them Japanese, 1 of them Draper, pretty sure they're not Japanese. Brings us on to my Clark pillar drill with a random light on the top of it. Dusty as hell, could do with cleaning. Real workhorse though, it just does what it says on the tin. Forcing a bit in it. Knocked up a little side thing there. Do you know, I was looking for that torch yesterday, I couldn't find it. Little side thing there for my most used bits, etc. Carrying on to the left. Made this shelving unit for all my screws and stuff. There's some brad nails at the top, my glues and accelerators, super glues, my what's the word from Torx screws are there. These are all posies. Funny story about these Arsenal tins. You probably won't think it's funny, but I do, so I'm going to tell you it. I had one. Can I see the one that it was? Ironically, I can't now because they're all covered in dust. And it was kind of old and battered and broken and dented and stuff like that. And I got it off somebody, I can't remember. And I thought, I reckon that's worth something, that. I'm keeping that. So I kept it. And then one day I opened a Facebook marketplace and there was a woman with 50 of them selling them for £1 each. And, you know, clearly I was wrong. A couple of other sundries at the bottom is what it is. Double glaze unit there, waiting to get split down for when I need glass for frames. My Evolution miter saw, love that piece of kit, love Evolution saws. No, I know that's not top end. No, I know they're contractor at best, but probably more suits to DIY. But you know what? They do exactly what they say on the tin. The multi-purpose blades are mega. I've got another Evolution saw, which I'll come to in a bit, which I've replaced the blades on. But they're mega. Down here, I'll put it back up there because I took it down so you can see the saw. I've got a little handheld heater that I picked up for next to nothing. Not the best in the world, kicks out a bit of heat, so I'll sit it on there so it blows straight out at me when it's cold. Whiteboard, which I literally just scribble any random nonsense on. I'll just scribble numbers on there so I don't forget them while I'm doing it. Tool rules. One of the most important things in my shop, because I live by that rule. I want to introduce you to one of the most important people in my life. One of the most important things in my life. People say love comes in many forms and that beauty's only skin deep. And I get that. I do get that. And what made me understand that was this little fella down here. Little Henry. Another Facebook marketplace buy. 110 volt powered, hence the converter there. There's another one under there. There's a backup that again picks up, in fact look, lot numbers still on it, picks it up at a little house clearance auction for like £5 or something like that. Do you know what, sometimes we don't get on and we have words. Sometimes he has a right strop and throws himself all over the floor for no reason. Sometimes he eats so much that he's sick, and I just have to rub him until he feels better. But I love him. Henry, I love you so much. Don't ever forget it. We're going to be together forever. I'm convinced. Anyway, moving on. My bench. Ow. My bench. Now, my bench was the first thing I ever made. I decided, well, it wasn't. I'd knocked out some nonsense out of pallets and stuff like that. But the first serious thing I ever made, and decided I wanted to convert the garage into a workshop. So I found a plan on Anna White's and went for it. And I made the bench. And then off the back of that, I also made this in the same vein to sit the miter saw on so that it in-feeds / out-feeds onto the workbench. Whatever. As I started, I got this bench built to the point that it just needed the top putting on. And my dear, dear friend's father passed away. I used to call him Pops. They lived just over, or they lived, Shano still lives, just over the road. I used to see him regularly. He told me one of the most important rules as a maker I think I've ever heard. And that was, laddie, he was Scottish, by the way, I'm not just making an accent up. Laddie, real mates don't ask for mates rates. A couple of days after he passed, his daughter, Shane's sister, was looking for just some scrap wood to do something with, make a plant or whatever. And I said, yeah, I've got some in the shop, come across. She came across, I cracked the door and a bench was sat there with the top waiting to go on it. And she took one look at it and she said, have you made that? And I said, yeah. And she said, Dad, I'd be so proud of you. Now, that bench will never go anywhere. It's too big. I think it's too big. I wish I'd made it smaller, but it'll never go anywhere. It's knackered, it's battered. The top probably needs replacing, to be fair, and I'll do that. And it's been bashed about. I made the vice too, for the record, but that bench will never go anywhere. On the basis of that conversation, that bench will never go anywhere. It means everything to me. Anyway, enough of the soppy nonsense. We'll go down first. Under the bench, my thickness planer, toolbox with tools in. It's virtually empty because most of the tools that should be in that toolbox are there. But I use them that regularly that they kind of get put down there and they live there. They're sat on top of my Trend pocket hole jig. There is a downdraft sanding box there that I made, and then more boxes of random tools and stuff. And just there, you can see my spline jig that I bought the pattern from Fisher's shop. And it's fantastic. Don't use it very often because I don't do boxes and frames very often, but it is fantastic. Shed load of Type 1, Type 2. And we'll come to my stool. Those of you that have seen the little ribboned boxes that I make, I think there was a video a few weeks ago of me making one of those. There was a point in time where I was literally turning out 3 and 4 and 5 a week. Hugely popular they went. And it was racking my back. So I picked up some cheap construction lumber. And I believe that's an Anna White plan as well, if I'm honest with you. And threw that stool together, and it's great. It's taken a kick in, it's battered, it's stained, but it does what it says on the tin. Does a great job. Back on top, it's quite hard to see actually, but this here, let me move some stuff because that there is my handmade Japanese toolbox. They call it. It's not a toolbox, clearly it's a pencil case. And it's got all my pencils and pens and, sort of stuff. You put a pencil case in it. The thing with that was, I cut the tips of my thumb and forefinger off with a homemade jointer, using which, you know, mounted a electric hand plane into it, flipped it upside down, made a bench top jointer. Second time I used it, cut the tip of my thumb and forefinger off. Now they've pretty much grown back, but you can see the strange angle on that, and you can, I mean, if you'd focus it'd help. You can see the slightly strange angle on that. Came out of hospital 2 days after I'm out. I've still got dressings and God knows what all over my finger, and I was bored. So that was a hand tool build, just to pass the time, and I'm dead chuffed with it. So it sits there. It's a little reminder to be really frigging careful when you're using power tools, you know. That's a bit embarrassing. I didn't realise they were there. That's my ear cleaners. Lovely. Little silicone mould tins. I'm going to use them for potentially pen blanks or something like that. That little baby there is the camera that I film a lot of my content on. It doesn't look much, but it does a great job. Vape stuff, tape measure, squares, junk, more junk. My self-healing cutting mat, again, takes an absolute kicking, but it just does what it's supposed to do. It's great. A beer and 2 vapes. Right, number one, I don't drink in the shop when I'm doing anything involving tools, because of the nature of the video I'm filming tonight. That's why the beer is there, because I know I'm okay to have it. The 2 vapes, it's not big, it's not clever, there's nothing fancy about vaping. However, it's been 4 weeks since I had a cigarette, and I'm pretty damn proud of it, so I'm not going to try and hide them away and pretend they don't exist, because they do. I think I'm doing pretty bloody well. My ring light, for making sure you can see every ounce of my ugliness when I'm filming content, and the remote that goes with it. My cheapo little 10 quid Lazy Susan, that every time you see a revolving piece of work, that's what it's sat on top of. That's for a project my best friend wants me to make her. She wants me to knock her up a pegboard. I just didn't have time to do it, or I would have filmed that tonight just for something to do. You can never have too many casters. My 2 workhorses, Bosch Professional brushless combi drill, Bosch Professional impact driver. My mother and father-in-law bought me the combi drill one Christmas, came to buying the impact driver, and for once I was sensible and I didn't get tempted by fancy names and big brands. I bought the one that I could buy more batteries for and interchange them, hence the charger that's behind them, and there is another one as well in there. I've got loads of batteries, I've got the charger, my blowtorch is there, which I use for my brand, which is hidden amongst the junk. It's my little branding iron. Anyone who's followed my channel will have seen me branding my work pieces on there, and we'll come along. This was my workhorse for so long. Well, basically 99% of what I did was done on this table saw, until I got my lathe, which is obviously a completely different medium. It's Evolution Rage 5S. It's currently got my homemade crosscut sled on top of it, which, for those of you who know what the 5-cut method is accurate to, do you know, I had it written on that whiteboard, and I've wiped it off recently, but it's accurate to about 0.00003 of a degree to 90, so it's pretty damn good. That was, and I'm really sorry, if I can find his channel, I'll tag him in it. He's a YouTuber that does guitar works that my mate Jamie absolutely adores, who's building a guitar and things like that. And he came up with this as designed for the best push block in the world. I made one just for something to do one afternoon, and do you know what? I can't really argue with him. It's absolutely mega. I dropped some anti-skid. In fact, that needs replacing, look at that. I dropped some anti-skid on the bottom. Use anti-skid all the time. Love it to bits. It's ace. More push blocks up there. Other random stuff. That little thing right up in the top corner is my thin strip jig. Cleaning up stuff and levels. Before I started filming this video, I had to break down a cabinet that I'd made to put my little baby lathe on when I got that. Spin that around, you don't need to look at a wall. Yeah, my first lathe, my little Axminster AC240, I want to say, but I could be wrong. but the little baby one, the entry level one they did. I made a little cabinet for it to sit on, and it had shelves underneath it and doors, and it was dead fancy. And then I bought the bigger lathe, and the person that bought the Axminster one didn't want the cabinet, so it's kind of sat here, and I put that on it, which I'll come to in a minute. It just took up a massive footprint, and it's been in here, getting in my way and annoying me for months. So tonight I've ripped it to bits, which part of the reason that it's such a poop hole in here. And there's all the bits for it, which is why I say there are parts of this workshop that are an absolute tip. However, I've got an outside wood store, and all that will go out in it tomorrow. I just can't be bothered to do it tonight when it's dark. That piece there of OSB is literally sat there waiting to be ripped down for shelves for my lathe, which I'm going to come to in a minute. So it's going to sit there and be ripped down to shelves for my new lathe. Broom. Step ladder for reaching high stuff because I'm a short Botbot. That's a, what do you call them? For a circular saw. You know, you run them along and it cuts it square and, you know, does that thing. One of the most expensive things in here is my, I believe it's 30 litre, but I could be wrong, but my big pressure pot. All 90% of my resin castings in there. It's very rare I do something too big to go in there. However, the resin river cutting boards, because of the dimensions, won't go in there. However, most of what else you see goes into that pressure pot, and you'll have seen me putting stuff in and out of it. That was a bin. That's not was a bin, well, that still is a bin. That's a bin that I knocked up out of pallet wood because I broke my last one. That's a bin bag full of shavings. This dust extractor slash cleaner in the corner, the two things behind it there are the sleds for my planer that I've made. That was £4 from a house clearance auction. And it sucks like an analogy that will get me banned from Facebook, but YouTube. But I'm sure you can imagine it sucks really well. I then made a homemade cyclone for it, which out of a homebrew barrel, and you know what? It works. I can't believe it, but it does. So there you go. And it's ace, and I use it loads. It runs into the back of my router table, which we'll come to. It runs into the back of my thickness planer that you've seen. I've got other extractors elsewhere, but I love that bit of kit. For what I paid for it, it's pound for pound probably one of the best things I've ever bought. Moves us on to this. That's my little grinding setup that I use for my skews and things like that. With one half of the Very Grind jig on it that Axminster, or the version of the Very Grind jig on it that Axminster make. It does its job. I've knackered one of the wheels. I need to fix it or replace it or whatever, but it does a job. However, it was sat on that cabinet that I've broken down, so now it's just sort of sat there. So it's in the way for my router table, but because of the magic of YouTube, no, it's not. My router table plus another charger, as I was saying, for the Bosch stuff. This, the top half, so from, there you go, from there upwards. Walking down the street one day, there's a guy there with a skip outside his house, putting a little mini sideboardy unit type thing. Or he was struggling to get out of his front garden. Stopped me, excuse me mate, can you help me put this in the skip? And I said, well, I'll help you pick it up, but you're not putting it in the skip. And he said, why? I said, because you're going to put it in the back of my car. And he went, why on earth would you want this? And I said, because I'm going to turn it into a router table. And he laughed at me and said, don't be ridiculous. Well, there's no way he's ever going to be watching this, but guess what, mate? Look what happened. Then built the bottom half. My Makita palm router's in there. That's got, oh, hello. Homemade thing. Forget what it's called. Brain fart on it. Other drawers full of nonsense. A drawer there with my router bits and spanners and things like that. The router that's in it ain't the greatest by any stretch. It's an old Black & Decker, but you know what? Remember me talking about Pops? It was his. And Shana gave it to me, and it does the job. So I love it, and it's staying. NVR thrown on there, made my own fence, dropped a plate into it, whacked some T-track in it. It's a router table, it does what it does. That is a carriage for my Milescraft sign writing letter stencils. Didn't want to pay 80 quid for the one that they made, so bought the stencils for 15 quid and made my own. It does the job, it works. That is my David Picciuto framing clamps. Again, absolutely brilliant. I'm going to come to it in a minute. Well, in fact, I'm not going to do it now. Way up there. Bit hard to see. But David Picciuto, make something. That's his framing sled. And it's flipping brilliant. Bought the plans for both, made them. They're absolutely faultless. Can't say any more than that. First lathe chisel sled. Jesus. Thing is right there. Wood blanks up there. That's the Fisher's box joint jig. More blanks. Cupboard full of nonsense. Forget about it. Respirator. Tripod for filming content. Stuff that's for sale. Or fire pit. That came off the cabinet. I've just taken to bits. This is a little thing that I knocked together for my Forstner bits. My God, it's filthy. That's another mitre jig for framing. Bit hard to see, but it is. This banjo is the reason for all my stress. Yeah, it's the one that's gone goodbye, to put it politely. It's the reason for all my stress, and it's why it's time for me to say goodbye and move on to something else. I'd love to keep it, but I haven't got the time to keep servicing and fixing the Marjot, so it is what it is. My plane tool is one of my favourite things. With the exception of the Stanley number 4 and the low angle block plane that I talked about last week, that my good friend Bex gave me from his late father's garage. The rest of them picked up from auctions and workshops and Facebook for next to nothing and refurbed, and there they are. There is, you can't see it so it doesn't matter, there is a record number 7 under my bench, which I need to work on at some point. Clamps, more clamps, goggles, more clamps, other clamps. Clamps, stuff in boxes. That's my Guild, in inverted commas, Dremel. That's my belt sander. They've got spanners and sockets in. That's my Clark chisels. One of them is a little mini plunge saw, which is naff. And what's the other one? That's my nail gun. It's my air nailer. Bosch glue gun tucks away inside. My babies. These are the ones I go to more than anything else. My Rutland's 1/2 inch bowl gouge. My record 1/4 inch. That's a ring hollower that I've only used a few times, and it's a bit of a beast to tame, but I'm going to get there. Little swan neck hollowing tool. Another, can't really see it like that, but it's another slightly swan neck hollowing tool. That is a carbide scraper with a Easy Wood Tools negative rake scraper in it, as is that. That's a square carbide scraper, and that's your standard round nose scraper. Down, centre finder and ruler, calipers, chuck key, calipers, banjo, respirator, air shield, cloth, apron, big fat dust extractor. About 30 quid off eBay. Love it. Next, Triton whetstone grinding wheel. The other part of the Axminster Vari-Grind, or whatever their version of it is, jig. 90% of my sharpening comes on there. Toyed with upgrading to CBM wheels, but they're expensive. And ultimately I want a Sorby Pro Edge. But for now it does a great job and I love it. We're into the crap corner now. Loads of stuff mounted up there, forget about it. Einhell, what are they called? Scroll saw. Einhell scroll saw. Can't really see that, but it's an infeed table that I made for my Evolution workbench, and it's great and I love it. A light that I said I put up a year ago, still haven't done. Ariana, which has got a crack in it, needs repairing. Claire, don't worry, I'm going to do it. Belt sander. Loads of stuff that's shouldn't be there. Mould materials. Little baby Ryobi bandsaw. It does a job. It's alright. The cutting height on it's not enough. It frustrates me, but for now it's what I've got, and I can't say too much about it. It's just a little workhorse, you know. Little set of filing cabinet drawers, sander and stuff. Oh, there's nothing incriminating in these. Other stuff. It doesn't look like it, but I know where everything is in there. Tapes and stuff. My one-hand kitchen roll dispenser that I'm quite proud of, that I came up with and made. Don't know what I'm going to do with that now. With a tape dispenser built in the top of it. This cupboard here is, in effect, that's mostly resin-based stuff. That big box right there is my pyrography kit. That's a lateral flow test. That box there is my stencils, spray cans, made that as well. It's naff, but I made it. Other paints, coffee beans. Right, I've got a plan for them. Don't question me, just run with it, all right? And then another one of my favourite things in my workshop, not that it gets used while I'm working, is my beer fridge. My good friend's homebrew there, my bruiser box there, some monsters at the top, loads of Pepsi for my wife, some more beer, some whiskey. It's a beer fridge with my wife's Pepsi in it, and a tumble dryer which gets in my way and really annoys, but there's nowhere else for it to go, so you got to live with it. Last one, well, not the last one, is my little step stool. That was a Jonathan Katz-Mose design. I've made a few of them now, sold a couple. I use it all the time because I'm a dwarf, and this stuff's high. Oh yeah, loft hatch. This stuff's high. The step ladder down there is for something else though, and that's that. Right, up here, that isn't pulling away from the ceiling. The wood wasn't straight, but I built it anyway. Just decided to make that. It's bolted up through the rafters in the loft, and it's created me so much space. That top shelf here, that will take full sheet, if it didn't have all that crap piled on it, will take full sheets of ply or whatever. Other two down below obviously won't. There's two big bits of framing material sticking out of it, which is for a job that's imminent. The rest of my framing material, you might actually be able to see that, because there is a lot of it. Lives up there, because it's free space. And that's about it. I think I've shown you everything. That's my boiler. A couple of blanks up there. Yeah, it's got to be it, hasn't it? We've gone bin bag. Oh, no. My little baby air compressor. Bless it. Little 1 horsepower bandit. But you know what? It does the job. It takes a while, but it fills that pressure pot. And I kind of love it. Because I haven't got the room. Look at the size of this gaff. In fact, let's do one of these. 1 car garage. I ain't got room for a big fat air compressor, quite frankly. I've outgrown it already. And it does a job, and I love it. And it lives there all the time. And I can blow stuff down. I can blow that down. I look like Jeremy Clarkson and Arian Hutton. I don't know if this is advisable, to be honest. But yeah, I can do that. My good friend Claire, who I'm fixing Ariana for, came around one night after too many beers, and she wanted to try something else with it, but we wouldn't let her, and it turns out that actually it might have been fatal, so I'm pleased we didn't. This video is 28 minutes long, and I don't know how I'm going to cut it down. Oh, it's loads more editing that I wanted to do. Right, I'm going to say goodnight, because that is definitely... That's a lot more editing that I wanted to do. Yeah, sorry for the poor state of the video, but when your tools do that to you, there's not a lot you can do. And I wanted to get something out. So if you've managed to last through this, all power to you. You got more patience than I've got. Like, comment, share, thumbs up, all that nonsense. Most of all, subscribe. Martin, I told you I wouldn't forget about you. Most of all, subscribe, because at the end of the day, right now, if you sat through what right now is 29 minutes, I'm going to have to cut that down some, of this nonsense, you've got the patience of the same, but you've got nothing better to do. So have it. I'll see you soon.